And while we're sitting around, does anyone have anything they'd like to announce or share?
I can share something, and then
Okay.
I'll get off. Today, Andrea Shetley and I went to see uh, Kung Fu Panda
Kung Fu
4 or
Panda 4,
whatever.
yes.
Don't recommend it. The projector that we saw it on had problems. The left eye had very little color, but I think it was the projector, not the movie. And it's a standard kids movie, all kinds of animals. Everybody hates everybody until the end. Everybody is supposed to love everybody. Those kinds of movies.
Of course. Well, I do have number one here in 3D. Um, Not a movie that I would think really deserves three sequels, but I guess somebody's watching it. So, yeah, I actually have a standing invitation to go see that. It is playing in 3D in the Bay Area. We'll see if I can make it before I miss it. Um,
I'd like to see that Charlie Oscar Romeo movie or play. I hear it's scary and so on. And
it's
even in 2D, I'd like to see it.
it's pretty intense. Did you see the show from the New York Stereoscopic Association?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. The guy told was wonderful speaker about how it was all done and the thought behind it.
yeah,
What a great idea to go just to think of a play on those recordings. Just, he dreamed it up, he said, with a few of his friends.
yeah, yeah,
Clever, clever.
and it's intense.
Have you seen it yourself, Matt? Or
I don't own it. I haven't
yeah,
seen the whole thing, just some clips. I
yeah.
think that a couple of our members do, but I haven't seen the complete movie yet myself. All right, I'm going to wait for one more person. Lee, speaking of your experience with the poor stereo projection, I'm surprised that bad 3D projection is still a thing. And I think I mentioned last week, a couple of us went to see an art film, Anselm, at a theater that's never done 3D before, and they had the worst system. And then I'm also thinking of a time that a couple of us went to see Gods of Egypt, not a great movie, in 3D. And one of the eyes, the left eye, was all fogged up through the whole movie. And what we found out was that the exhaust duct for the popcorn machine was went around that projector, and I guess it emitted enough heat or steam or something that it fogged up that eye. That was
Wow.
probably the second worst 3D projection I've ever seen.
Now we've discovered that it sort of doesn't matter if, as long as one eye is good, right? Did that not work in motion, or is that just for stills?
If it was like slightly out of focus, I think it would have been fine. This was very, very foggy. And it was interesting. You could still get a 3D effect, but the fogginess was enough that my brain at least couldn't compensate for it. So there is a threshold that it crossed, clearly.
The threshold of where you notice it, I guess, which is probably pretty high.
Yeah, yeah. I imagine that it probably is, and I wonder if anyone has actually, scientifically examined that.
I
See how
doubt it.
far you
It's
can go.
interesting, but
Probably not. Yes, unfortunately.
not a lot of attention to our favorite subject.
All right. Well, I think we're going to get started. I am expecting a few more people, but if they're late, let's not spend all night waiting for them. Let me share my screen and we'll get started here. Amazingly, we haven't had any disasters yet, so we've got that going for us. Okay, there it is. Oh, here comes Jack. Okay.
Can hear you. Can you hear me?
Jack, I hear you fine, and we're just getting started.
Oh, oh,
Your
okay.
timing is
I always get
perfect.
confused. I always get confused when I'm getting on and it says I always want to join meeting and it only offers me the choice of opening meeting.
Well, you're here. Whatever you did it right.
Okay. I just remember how to do it right next time.
All right. So thank you for joining us. We'll let the stragglers come in whenever. We are going to start with one by Melinda. Melinda, incidentally, and you too, Oleg, were you able to download the files for tonight's slideshow okay? Did it work for you?
We need to mute Jack.
I missed that.
I
Jack
was just
know how to
asking if you were
mute,
able.
by the way? Does Jack know how to mute himself by any chance?
Yeah, Jack, I think you might need to mute yourself because we're getting some echo.
This is on the laptop.
Uh, well, let's see how you do, Jack.
I don't have anything turned on the TV I'm watching at all.
Okay.
I'm watching the picture, but there's no sound. It's all turned off.
All right. It's probably going to be fine.
If you've got a 10-year-old in your neighborhood, have him come in and he'll show you.
That's right.
I don't speak. I don't know of any.
All right. Our first image of the evening is by Melinda. And I should start, of course, that this is our special subject meeting, and our subject for tonight is rivalry, retinal rivalry. And what we're doing is we're using retinal rivalry creatively. Retinal rivalry, for those who don't know, and I think everyone here does know, is when in the stereo image there's something different in the left eye and the right eye that creates well, it could be an error, but we're using it, as I said, creatively tonight. And the first one that we have to show is by Melinda, and the title is Candy or Coal. Melinda, tell us all about this.
Yeah, I took this years ago because I saw I like the cyan 3D gummy blocks. It seemed appropriate, but never had a use for it. But it seemed like it would be a good starting point to fool with some retinal rivalry, and in particular, color versus black and white. So I just simply desaturated one eye completely to see what the result would look like, and I thought it came out really interesting. The candies in the center, they sort of look like, half of them look like candy and the other half look like coal. And I don't know. I guess it's the sharper parts of the black and white image seem to be cutting through or taking precedence. But it's an interesting kind of rivalry going on there. And then the Tootsie Rolls on the side, to me they look completely normal. So there's none of that rivalry, really. And then the sign on the label is red in one and gray in the other. So there's a lot of rivalry. So it's sort of interesting. It's like three different areas. One where the views are really fighting each other. The other where it's perfectly happy, and then in the middle there's this sort of weird thing going on. So I don't know what to make of it, but I just thought it was interesting.
It is very interesting.
This one really works for me in a way I've never seen any other done, because when I look at it, and I'm just staring at it, the colors go in and go out. I mean, in other words, 1 second they're all black on the left side, and then the colors come in. All of a sudden they're almost fully colored on the left side. It's probably just my brain disintegrating, but I've never seen this before.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's parts of your brain are sort of fighting over the interpretation of what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And I guess for you, it sort of hit in that perfect sweet spot where it's just not clear. And I guess that's the middle part, really, right? I'm assuming you're not having any problem on the left side, right?
It's mostly where it's changing color and not color. It's mostly on the left side.
Oh, it is on the left side with the Tootsie Rolls?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's definitely different from me. Anybody else with different experiences, or
Lee has
similar
mentioned
to one
in
of
the
us?
chat that the color image heavily dominates for him. And, when I see this, looking at it on my Loom pad, it actually looks like a color image with, with both eyes. And as well as the anaglyph, which doesn't surprise me. Although the
I'm
anaglyph is quite a bit darker.
getting the same thing on my loom pad.
The
Looks
color
pretty normal.
dominates.
Whereas if I'm free viewing it on my iPad, it's much more prevalent in terms of the retinal rivalry.
Oh, how interesting! Yeah.
But my
Yeah.
loom pad is also acting a little swirly and flickering a bit.
I guess an interesting point is that even if we're using the same methods for viewing it, each human being and each brain is probably doing a little bit different things.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I like the shot. I'm curious. I don't know if Melinda's into it, but wonder what would happen if you just cloned or copied the right side of that plate and flipped it to hide the flare that's coming in on the left.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, the flare seems to make parts of the candy look like they're covered in spider webs or something. At least to me.
Yeah.
I think
It's kinda
the
gross in a way.
scratches on the lid.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of depth, but that probably has nothing to do with stereo.
I just found if I block that flare, I find the subject is much more focused on that set.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It's really, it's a lovely shot. It's just distracting when that flare kind of draws your eye into it.
Yeah, that might be a big part of the weird effect, at least the spiderweb effect.
It looks kind of nice when you put your anaglyph glasses upside down and look at it.
So what do you get?
On the red.
It's a very interesting pseudo effect.
Yeah, a little better than when they're right side up. I guess because of the red is on the right eye and most of the colors on the right eye.
Well, and for me, the candy, the Tootsie Rolls, and the gummy blocks look more like a mound of candy rather than a crater of candy. When I
in
do
pseudo?
that pseudo effect.
Oh, yeah. Hmm. Yeah, it's funny. It's much more, yeah, in pseudo for me, it looks much more like candy than coal. So I guess it depends which eye is dominant, maybe, but I think I'm right eye dominant, but that's opposite of what I'm seeing. That's weird.
I think, what Jack said about everyone seeing this, perceiving this slightly differently, probably has an element of truth to it.
Yeah, I think it just kind of landed in the middle of the uncanny valley territory. None of us quite know what to do with it.
Well, this one is definitely true to the theme, tonight's theme of retinal rivalry. There's a lot of ways to play with this. Thank you, Melinda.
Sure, thank you.
So for tonight's exhibition, rather than showing the photos randomly like we do in the open, I've got them grouped by maker. So Melinda, you've got one more, and that's coming up next. And the title is I Have You Now, Puny Human.
Oh yeah, that wasn't in the download, right? We switched them. I probably have to go find the image. Well, I guess I can see it in 2D on the screen. Yeah, so it's just this weird event that happens pretty much every evening at sunset down at the water. Something strange is going on. I think this was the same person that was in the bridge abutment image that I submitted recently. And I think here he's just doing some exercises, doing some squats or whatever. And so it just kind of looked to me like he was a giant about to try to pick up this little guy down in the bottom. And that's the rivalry. Otherwise, not a lot to say about it. The foreground is kind of interesting, the way the light is just glancing off the stones there. And I think the border helped too. And I didn't really do much of anything to the image.
I think the effect of being a giant, I mean, of course, that works in 2D, but in 3D, the trick is revealed, and we can see that the puny human is actually in the distance.
Yeah, I wondered if that was going to be a problem or anything, but it sort of seems to still work for me. But you're definitely right that it shows you what's going on.
Yeah, it looked like a Jurassic Park dinosaur doing a sneaker commercial for me. I saw it as a large creature, but more of a dinosaur than a human.
Nice.
I think it's the pose that does it.
The tiny little hands.
Yeah. Although I don't know anyone else on the Loom pad, I'm getting a lot of ghosting, but not when I preview it, obviously.
Yeah, as am I. This is the kind of image that the Loom pad really struggles with. Anything with high contrast. You can kind of forget about it. It's gonna be ghosting. For my personal album on my Loom pad, I've eliminated all of the high contrast photos just to avoid it.
I'm getting a lot of ghosting on just a regular screen, well, especially on the left side, the leg there.
This is probably the kind of image that is best free viewed. And it's got really a good amount of depth also. I'm presuming this is the hydrogen one?
Yes, of course.
Incidentally, I read that Nikon is acquiring the Red company, the cinema camera company, although they are no longer...
The whole company?
Yeah, they're not doing the smartphones anymore. They do like
Sure.
professional movie cameras, that kind of thing.
No, I'm surprised. I mean, I thought they were doing fine, or maybe that's okay. Maybe they got a good price for it.
Yeah, I don't know what the details are, but sadly, it's going to be, I'm sure, the last 3D device we get from that company. Although it'd be great if Nikon gave us a 3D
Well,
camera.
yeah, Nikon could do it. Who knows?
They could do it. They should do it.
Definitely. Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, we can dream. All right, thank you, Melinda.
Thank you.
Jack, we've got you coming up next. We've got two by you. The first one, Jack, is Fiery Flower. And incidentally, if you're following along on YouTube, it'll take 10 or 15 seconds to catch up.
With this one, I just tried to make a sort of a fiery effect from you kind of see this in flowers a little bit, but of course this is terribly exaggerated.
It's great. Really works well.
It's subtle.
Yeah, I tried thinking about coming in at all sorts of different angles and having an elf sitting on top of it or something, but I figured I'd just be straightforward with it this time.
It's interesting to me when I look at it on my loom pad. The center of the flower appears more of like a purple color when I look at it with both eyes. When I swap eyes, I see one is more red and the other is more black.
Is that a native shot or a conversion?
I'm sorry.
I'm just curious if it was a native or a conversion.
I'll refresh my memory again what that means.
Well, shot with a 3D device, or was it run
Oh,
through
it's a cha. It's a cha-cha.
Okay. I was curious because on the loom pad, I'm getting some different levels of the petals.
Really?
Kind of the ones at 7 o'clock seem to be recessed, or 6 and 7.
Yeah, I see the same thing.
Yeah, well, I can see on the about 8 o'clock why some are sticking out.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there was any wind or something that may have changed the flower.
No, I think that was. Well, I don't really remember. I don't think so, though.
Doesn't really bother me. I was just curious.
I like the yellow-green kind of circle. It's easy on the eye. It's kind of pleasant to look at. It's even though the two eyes are very different, there doesn't seem to be any real rivalry at all. Something about it is believable, I guess.
Yeah, it is very comfortable to view.
Well, you might even actually, in real life, see a flower look like this if you were smoking the right stuff.
Is this the flower to smoke?
I don't know.
Only one way to find out.
And actually, since we were talking about it, I want to look at this in pseudo. Yeah, it's got an interesting stereo effect in pseudo, and the rivalry, of course, works. All sorts of ways to see this. All right, thank you, Jack. And Steve, welcome. Glad you're able to make it.
Sorry, I spaced out.
That's okay. We've got a couple by you coming up, and then we also have your Fix-Its, your CC Saw. So we will get to those. But first, we're going to enjoy another one by Jack. And this is a native shot, and the title is Wild Spirit. I think I got that right.
I think so. This was just a little piece of art statue in one of the museums we went to, and I was just I it looked to me like the goddess or whatever it was reaching out and with some wild energy emission there. So I figured I'd put it in and use the rivalry to make it more vibrant. I kind of overdid it in a way that particularly on the left side, it kind of jumps back and forth, and probably should have smoothed out the ones a little bit more. But anyway, it's kind of fun.
Well, I think those rays are fine. The eyes are kind of distracting to me, but maybe it's just a lot of contrast there.
Definitely
Yeah,
a lot of rivalry.
I got a question for you. I see her foot is at a pretty far different angle between the left and right eye. Is that an intentional retinal rivalry, or is that just because of I assume this is a cha-cha and the foot is just sticking out? It doesn't quite work. I can't seem to reconcile it.
Well, it has it coming out. I didn't move it, I don't think, except I really stretched them all out quite a bit there. And it's the image is distorted quite a bit.
Yes. Yeah, it is. The rays look cool. The rays look really cool. They're almost like marionette strings.
Yeah, there's a little flash on the right next to her foot that's not on the left. A little spot of brightness there. Could have been a reflection if you were shooting through glass, maybe, or
maybe it's just a little hole that you can see the background.
I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah. It's just something I should have taken out, but I missed it. I think I darkened some of that stuff and lightened some of it, and I missed the spot where I didn't do the same thing to it in that one.
Yeah, the rays are very nice. I like them. I agree with Melinda, though. The eyes are a little too kind of takes away from that nice ray effect.
Yeah, I could have reduced that by making the red one yellower and the yellow one redder, and to an extent that it wasn't annoying.
Yeah, I think just having it a little subtler would be a good addition.
Jack, I like how you frame this. I like that the base is behind the window, but we have these limbs that are really coming through the window. Looks great on my Loom pad. For those who are looking at this on a 3D TV, how does it look? Is it too extreme? Is anyone looking at it on a TV?
I'm looking at it on a 3D
and it looks
screen,
okay?
and it looks perfect to me.
Perfect, okay. Well, no complaints on this end either.
Oh, I'm not complaining.
Oh, maybe? Is he...
It's
see his name.
The image on my Loom pad is breaking the window at the bottom. I seem to be seeing a little bit more of that base. I'm wondering what it would look like if you masked off the bottom of the base so it wasn't breaking the window.
That probably look better.
Jack, did you put
Matt,
this background?
Matt, have you changed the image on your screen yet?
I'm sorry?
I have. Are you following along on one of the YouTube streams?
No,
Yeah, I'm on.
I
I'm
still
looking on
see
YouTube.
I still see the statue with 4 beams,
Oh,
3
we are
beams
looking
going
at that
up in
one,
the air.
yes.
Okay.
You're on the right slide.
Is there a reason the cropping is different on the side-by-side view and on the loom pad?
It should be the same. We're actually looking at the same files.
Well, I'm looking cross view at my iPad, and the frame is right below that. I don't know how to describe it. There's the raised base. There's the flat disc that's part of the base, and the frame cuts right where it meets the larger piece. But on the loom pad, I'm seeing much more of the bottom area.
I wonder if your stereo base is adjusted differently on the loom pad, because on my loom pad
maybe.
I see the base being behind the window.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't used it that much here, so maybe I could try adjusting that.
There is a way to adjust the depth, and it's kind of hidden in the loom pad. I'm kind of playing around with it myself right now.
I've got it
Could
set
be it.
3D half width side by side.
Interesting, yeah.
That's what I should be setting it, right?
Yes.
But I don't see an adjustment.
I'm not sure exactly where it is. It's a hidden feature kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not.
Well, you might want to try, if you want to experiment with it, you might want to try downloading the files. There is a link in the chat. It might be worth comparing, seeing if there is a difference that you're getting between the stream and the actual file. I'll look into that. Well, thank you, Jack. And Bob, while we've got you, we have a set by you, and the one that's coming up next is called Mugshot. And I think I see the rivalry.
Yeah.
Tell us about this, Bob.
Well, this was for a conference, and they wanted a headshot, so I thought a mugshot would be great, and always a chance for a bad pun. So the English expression "Bob's your uncle" became my nickname, and also an opportunity to give me a little more height there too.
Of course. That's the creative aspect of it here.
A little more depth too. The 8-foot line is much more forward than the others.
Well, that's my crime was numerous window violations.
Yeah, it's very clever.
It's interesting to view this one as an anaglyph, since Bob is wearing the anaglyph glasses. Viewers, I should say, in this image. Swapped, of course, for the rivalry. It's they really do pop out as an anaglyph. So who's Bob Zirkle?
Now it's have you heard the expression "Bob's your uncle"?
Oh, that's it. You just explained that. I get it.
Yeah. Could probably get arrested for that pun too.
Well, here we don't
Yeah.
arrest anyone for window violations.
Yeah, but I think in California, isn't it? Use a pun, go to jail.
That's
Yeah. Arrest them for puns, not for the window violation.
Yes, right.
Well, we're not going to snitch on you if you violate any stereo windows here. So, Bob, let's move on to another one of yours. This will be popping up in a few moments. Ray in the Zone.
I'm sure everybody's familiar with iconic Ray Zone, who the master of 3D comics, and he also was a big proponent of retinal rivalry. He loved retinal rivalry. So I gave him a little on the border of his portrait in the back and his shirt.
And the shoes, or are those real?
Oh no, that's what he wears. I've started wearing, I have a mixed pair of red and blue that I bring to 3D cons and wear them in Ray's honor. But no,
That's nice.
those were his.
If he
Yeah,
has
about
a
two
pair of,
pairs, huh?
if he has a pair of green ones and a pair of red ones, too bad you couldn't get one of each and switched them.
Well, that's what he did. I'm sure he had to buy two pair. I bought two. I found a wonderful red and cyan pair at some shoe store, and I bought them.
I think
The
Jack
left
was
one is-
suggesting that
The left,
two
the left
people
one is
could
red in
buy
both
two pairs.
images. You should have the right one red in one image and left one red in the other image.
Oh, to
Right.
create a rivalry?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, good point. I could have switched that, or gone back in a time machine and have Ray switched shoes.
Yeah.
Second shot.
Probably would have been easier just to make him swap his shoes. So Ray did a lot of work with comic books, and I know he did a lot of conversions, and I'm sure he used retinal rivalry creatively in those endeavors. I think that's a format where retinal rivalry really works well, and I have a small collection of 3D comics, and most of them seem to throw in one or two kind of rivalry gimmicks.
They played a dead man in a coffin in one movie, one horror movie.
And it was a rivalry effect?
No, it was Ray, though.
It was Ray. Yes.
It was a
and he has
3D horror movie.
a 3D horror movie. Well, Ray was a wonderful person, as you said in the chat, Lee. The first time I met him, we had like an hour conversation. I felt like I'd known the guy my whole life. Incredible guy. Well, thank you, Bob. Let's move on to another one by you, and the title here is X Marks the Spot.
Another 3D superstar. This is David Berger, and one of his converted Nimslows that he made. If you can look at, I forget how many lenses that one has. I think it's maybe a 12 lens called a Birdlow. And I like the effect of switching and superimposing the two. I love that third head that appears in the middle. But not a lot of retinal rivalry, just the spot in the middle.
Well, there's a couple creative techniques going on here. But it definitely counts. I never met the man, but I'm very familiar with the camera. He would modify these Nimslows. I'm holding up one right now if you're following my screen. The Nimslow, as most of us know, is a 4-lens film, 35mm film camera released in the 80s for specifically for lenticular prints, but there are other creative ways to use it. And this is, How many lenses? How many lenses? 12, something like that.
He even had one of 24 lenses, I remember, at his house.
So would he expose like 3 or 4 negatives at once?
Yeah.
And
I owned an 8 lens version. It was fun. It was great for taking pictures.
so how can you use it? Can you do you have to do like custom lenticular printing?
Well, yeah, it's made for lenticulars with a nice wide base, and you load it in a changing bag because just the winding of the film, you only get about 4 shots on the thing. You sneak in an extra shot if you load it in the dark.
I mean, you can't just send it to Nimslo for them to process it.
No, you just use the images on their own.
Yeah,
But
my dad bought a Nimslo camera. That was pretty cool. Don't know what happened to it though.
Boy,
Well, if anyone's interested, I've got 10 of them here and I'll be selling some. So
okay.
Oh, wow.
seriously, I also have a Birdlow that David made that uses just the middle 2 lenses, and he had a filter ring attached to it so that you could put a close-up filter on it and get even closer.
Wow.
And it made great portraitures. The lens separation was great for portraits, and the distance was perfect for if you were holding the Birdlow and just put your finger out and touch the person's nose. That would be the focus distance. It would also make them laugh and get you a great portrait. So it was an ingenious addition. I was trying to find it to show it to you, but maybe next time.
The Teco Nimslo with the using little guards to block off lenses for various purposes.
Yeah, exactly. I think they may have seen David's
Yeah.
and taken a hint.
Yeah, David had a lot of great ideas there.
If you can see my screen, I'm holding up a page from the Real 3D Enterprises Guide to the Nimslo 3D, and they've got this technique for using taking macros with a pair of reading glasses and a rubber band over the lenses.
Makes sense.
Obviously, it was effective. Yes,
Diopter.
a very interesting device. I would imagine that with that 24 lens conversion, I mean, that would use up a whole roll of film for one shot.
I never saw David use it. He just showed it. It looked sort of like an Acora. I don't know. I can't describe it. It was just that whole thing so long that it was like a big joke, I think. But you're right. You could have taken 24 different pictures with it.
Yeah.
As you say, a roll of film.
I still occasionally shoot with mine. Of course, Nimslo no longer develops the film, no longer prints the lenticulars, but you can develop the film. Don't have the film actually cut it yourself. Don't have prints made, and then just scan the film, and then you have the four frames to manipulate digitally, and the 2 outermost frames, depending on the subject and your distance from it, that's a very good stereo pair right there. So it's a pretty versatile camera.
I think people were interested in getting Nimslos for the Wiggle 3D images, to be able to shoot them.
Yeah, that's a great technique, animating those 4 frames so they wiggle and you get that sort of pseudo stereo effect. Not pseudo, but
Yeah, you can get that on Leopic's converter as well.
yeah.
I remember reading something about a device that you can put into a 35mm film camera to turn it into a digital camera. I don't know I think it was a Kickstarter. I don't know if it was ever made, but that would be ideal for something like this.
Exactly. I was hoping they'd do one so that I could use some of the favorite film cameras I have and just put a digital back on it.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
what I
know
hope
they.
for my Nikon.
You say you have that?
No, I have a Nikon. I've just been waiting for decades for a
Oh,
digital
yeah.
back.
Yeah. Didn't they do one for the Hasselblad? I thought.
I'm sure they did. Yeah, there have been a few.
I don't need that for my cell phone.
No.
All right. Well, thank you, Bob.
Sure.
This one's a lot of fun. Yeah, I love that effect with that middle head. That's
Yeah.
that's great. Nice symmetry in this one. Okay.
Well,
He's all ears.
Ron Labby, I think, has contact lenses. One's red, one's blue or something.
Wow.
I saw him at a show with them. I don't know if they worked, so you could watch the world in anaglyphs or just a joke.
I would think
Probably
they
a
would
joke.
work.
Yeah.
You don't want to wear those for too long. It's not good for your eyes, because your eyes
No.
are constantly adjusting for the color.
Yeah.
Well, I've asked several optometrists to make me a pair of prescription Real D glasses, but so far I haven't found one that can do it. Prescription anaglyphs, maybe that would be even easier. And the contact lenses, that one's new to me. All right, let's move on. Steve, here's one by you. It'll be popping up. This is a native shot, and the title is Fountain.
Yeah, this is in Indonesia, and it's the retinal rivalry is very subtle. It's just some of the water splashes. I just painted on both on the left and right, so it would have like a shimmery effect. Like I said, it's subtle. I also darkened the people in the background. They were a little distracting.
Yeah, I think that helps. Was it a dark day or like an overcast day or late in the
No, I don't
afternoon?
think so. I think it was a regular sunny day.
You could have changed all the shirt colors back there. All the blue ones, turn them to red, and the guy in red turn into blue.
Well, I did a color change one on my other. I submitted two retinal rivalry pictures, and one is the color thing that we've been seeing a lot of. I wanted one to be not color based.
And tell me again, Steve, where this fountain is?
In Indonesia.
Indonesia, okay.
It's not like a famous fountain or anything. It just, seemed like a subject for 3D. It
I
was,
think
in a temple, in front of a temple.
I think splashing water is always a great subject in 3D. All right, thanks, Steve. So this is your native shot of the evening, and now we have a conversion by Steve. Let's see. Bear with me here. Here we go. This will be popping up in a few moments. This conversion is titled Angel.
So the background is Jack's Wild Sunset, which I think is native, and then the picture is just a painting I found on Google search, and I did a little manipulation on the wings to give it some depth, and then of course I added a kind of a glow alternating the two eyes, red, purplish red, and a greenish blue or bluish green. Take your pick.
Yeah. All right. Now, how did you do the conversion?
Well, maybe I misunderstood what the conversion means. I mean, I just took a still picture and converted it to 3D. So I just took one still flat picture, and it's mostly flat except for the wings. I just used there's a morphing tool. It's not called a morphing tool, but a distortion tool in Affinity that let you bend things. And so I sort of pushed the wings back a little, kind of like the way the wing seems to go in front of part of a cloud and behind part of a cloud. It's mostly a coincidence that that it didn't intersect, but there's actually a space there for it.
Yeah, that's a conversion. You
Yeah.
don't have to run it through a fancy AI program in order for it to qualify as a conversion. You do it however you want.
Looks very nice.
Oh, thanks.
And the clouds behind it looks really good too.
Yeah, Jack deserves the credit for that. It's his picture. I have a nice 3D cloud picture, but it just wasn't as good for this subject. And actually, Melinda once manipulated that, kind of improved it. And but this is a good picture for my needs. And I emailed Jack. He gave me permission.
Yeah, my clouds look a lot better in your picture than they did in mine.
Well, thanks. They look pretty good in your picture. I have to admit, when I saw it, I went, that's a really nice picture. Although I cropped out, your picture had some buildings, some houses or something in the bottom, and I cropped all that out. And I actually do think that improved it.
Those fringes the features are different between each eye. And I find it a little distracting. I kind of wonder what it would look like if it was the same fringes, but just different colors.
Yeah, that's an option. I mean, there's an endless amount of options, but I wanted to experiment. I've done just color changing. I don't think it doesn't, just like with the water, I was looking for kind of like a shimmery effect, which I guess you do get with color changing, but I kind of wanted more, and I kind of liked it. But yeah, I mean, I totally could I still have all the layers, so I could do this.
And I just have no idea what that would look like. It might just not work at all, but it would be interesting, I think.
It would. I think it would probably work. Yeah, it would probably work, especially if you find the alternating beams distracting. Then it would definitely work. If you look like on her left hip, it's really close. I didn't do too much there, and you can see a little bit of a shimmery effect there. Actually, both hips, I think, are kind of like that. And it's a more subtle effect, but yeah, I think it would probably work.
Maybe it would lose the sort of shimmering effect that you are getting here, though. I guess that's what you were mostly looking for. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was looking for a pretty dramatic alternating effect, and you kind of have to take it through to the end. Sometimes it doesn't look like anything until you get finished.
Speaking of,
Do I get 50% of all the prize money you win with this one?
Absolutely. Coming your way. Well, that's
Okay.
the first check should be here any day now.
Yeah, you can really get rich at these international exhibitions.
Yeah.
Film
Solid gold
festivals are the
trophies,
same
cash
way.
prizes, cars. Speaking of that shimmering effect, I'm actually going to go back a few to Bob's Ray in the Zone, the photo of Ray Zone, because I think he did that very well in the framed photo of Ray that you see in the upper right-hand corner. If you're following along one of the streams, this will pop up in a few moments. But Bob's put a red frame on the left eye and a blue frame on the right eye. And it definitely creates that shimmering effect.
Yeah, good point.
And I think that's kind of what you were after. Is that what you're talking about, Melinda?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if it would still shimmer, and the answer is yes.
Yeah, I would say that the frame around Ray is very shimmery in this one.
That's how I describe it too.
Anyway, let's move forward. I just wanted to compare that as another example.
Shimmery. I'm going to write that down as a Scrabble word.
Yeah. And if they can test it, just have them come to one of our meetings. We'll show them exactly.
Yeah, I will. I'll send you
means.
as the contact of why it's a word.
Go. All right, we should be back on Steve's angel now.
Yeah, I think just I had to step away, so someone may have already mentioned this, but the fact that the rays are different on each of them, especially above her head, is a little distracting for me. Kind of takes away from it.
We were just
that's what
talking
Melinda
about
was
that.
saying.
Yeah, I agree. I think just having different colors, maybe having one be slightly bigger or something to give it a little more vibration. But if they're totally different rays, then you're going to get a lot of anomalies.
Bob, in fact, we went back to your Ray in the Zone photo so that we could compare the frame that you put around his portrait.
Uh-huh.
Compare that to the border that Steve put around his. And yeah, we agree. I think we decided that yours was more shimmery than angel there. All right.
Yeah, I was voted most shimmery in my high school class.
I would take that as a compliment, yeah. We're going to start throwing that word around.
I think we need to
Bob.
mute somebody here.
Yeah, I don't think I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, we are picking up some noise. If someone is adjusting or moving around, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself. Otherwise, I'll just mute everybody. Okay, here is the horror movie information that Lee was talking about in the chat. Ray Zone played a dead man in a coffin in the 3D movie Night of the Living Dead 3D Reanimation. That's one I haven't seen. I know we have one of our resident cinemaphile movie experts with us. Is Night of the Living Dead 3D Reanimation 1 in anyone's collection here? I'm very curious about this. I'm going to have to track this down.
No.
Well, maybe, maybe we'll get a Blu-ray restoration or something. Keep an eye open for that Kickstarter. All right, thank you, Steve. Oleg, are you with us?
Yes.
All right. We've got 4 from you coming up next. All of these are shot natively and the title of the first one is
Skip this
Property
one.
with Poorly
Skip
Kept
this one.
Shingles.
Skip it.
Skip
It was
it?
not supposed to. Yeah, it's not
All
supposed to
right.
be in.
The next one is downtown high rises reflecting sun.
Yeah, this is downtown Calgary. It's very interesting there. It's the city is sits in the prairies, so you get these amazing sunsets. And then downtown in Calgary, the high rises reflect the sun from various angles. So that's what I photographed. But one of the things, the reason I put it into this special is if you look at the high rise on the center right, there's something wrong, and it's completely natural. It's the way the windows somehow amplify, or they ruin the picture. The left, the different. This is a 6-inch stereo base, and you can see the difference in that in what the reflection became. It's just apparently a small warp in the glass completely ruins the picture.
So this is a retinal rivalry that came right out of the camera. This isn't something that you've enhanced. This is a synchronized pair, and the rivalry is just part of the composition.
Yeah, I had a sister picture that I went ahead and got rid of that rivalry, and I will with this one too because I don't like it.
Really fascinated by the building in the middle and how much of it we're really seeing and how much is it reflected, because it's totally symmetrical. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I like that effect too. This was taken over a half-hour interval. I had the thing on the tripod, and I kept waiting for somebody to end up in that light there on the right side, and finally got a picture of that. So I'm going to fix this, get rid of the rivalry at the top, and then I have a good picture.
Well, I love this photo. I think it's a fine example of retinal rivalry, but also just generally, I love the quality of the light that you've captured reflecting off these high rises. That's a type of light that I try to capture myself. If you're in the right place at the right time of day, you can really, it just casts these very interesting shadows and reflections, and it illuminates areas kind of indirectly. And I think this photo really captures that quality of light. And there's that great contrast between the new high-rises on the side and this sort of older, smaller building in the middle. And of course, that column of illuminated windows draws my eye right through this space here. And then finally, as you just said, Oleg, you captured those figures, those people in that light in the interior of that building. That really is a sort of a place to explore in 3D in stereo that you just don't get with the 2D version. I think this one is very successful.
I like it on a big
I
screen. There's a lot of detail to look at.
Yeah, it's very well done. Clever, clever.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Oleg. This is fantastic.
Thank you.
Let's take a look at another one by you. Convenience store behind steel fence.
Yeah, this has retinal rivalry if you look at it wrong. What happens when you have a vertical lines like that? They don't have a good. You don't know how far away they are, and they usually take on the distance of some other object that you can. You can you can see where it is in space. So if you look through on the center right, if you look through there, the vertical the fence lines go back and forth. That's where the rivalry comes in.
Is that Mount is that Mount Rainier in the background?
No, it's this is in Chile.
Ah, okay. I guess it's not Mount Rainier then.
Well, at this location, there are 3 volcanoes actually. This is the ugliest. There's one that looks just like Mount Fuji. So I'm going to visit that place again this fall. So
Oleg, I've seen this this phenomenon before. I'm sure we all have. Whenever you have repetitive vertical images, although there's a lot of stuff in this that is giving me clues as to where it is. I mean, there's the handle on the gate and the edge of the fence. So I'm having a lot of difficulty getting it wrong. I think if you just had, say, just the orange wall and the fence, then you would really have something that would be hard to reconcile exactly which of the vertical fence posts are supposed to merge.
well, I didn't want to make I didn't want to do any retinal rivalry because most of the time I try to avoid it. So this is just one that came out naturally, have a bit of rivalry.
Well, maybe I'll have to try it then.
Long, thin vertical lines are a lenticular nightmare, of course, because they beat against the lens direction.
Yeah.
And that's not so good.
I remember the first description of the TV, what do they call it? The scan lines, because they use alternating lines. That if you have a thin horizontal line that moves slowly down, it could turn completely invisible, because it would, if it's timed just right, it's in the. I didn't really have any understanding of that until it was explained to me like that you're seeing the alternating fields.
A friend of mine had one of those T-shirts like that, very thin horizontal lines that he would keep in case they were filming TV cameras around, because it would beat against the scanning of the TV cameras.
Oh, what a rascal!
Now,
But that's not an issue anymore. The new the new TVs, they use alternating fields.
Not to get too off subject, but there was a 3D movie format for older CRT TVs that relied on that interlacing. And they used electronic shutter glasses. So I think it was just 1/30th, every 1/30th of a second, you would see alternating fields. So the frame rate wasn't great, and the vertical resolution wasn't great, but it worked. And there are some 3D movies that were released for that system. This would have been back in the 80s, I think, that have never been released in any other 3D format, never on Blu-ray 3D or anything. So if you have one of those systems, don't ditch it right away. You might have a format that can show a film that no one else has.
I have one.
Oh, you do have one.
I have one of those kits. It has some of the IMAX 3D movies on them. And I keep it around just in case I want to get a headache.
Yes. And I recall the headset was quite large, too.
It just really drove me, because that flicker rate is horrible.
Well, getting back to the photo, thank you, Oleg. Yeah, this is lovely. I definitely get that rivalry effect with those narrow verticals, as Peter said. And I like the verticals on the top of the roof, those vents. They, I think, add something to this image also.
Oh, I should mention, I've been doing a lot of work in the fourth dimension, which is color. And I tried to match the tint of the various colors so it would be easier to see, to view. You saw the original pictures, the colors are unlike what you're looking at now.
So I see a lot of reds in this photo, and of course that orange wall. And it looks like there's an orangish building in the background there. Are those the colors that you manipulated?
Yeah, and the greens also.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. You've got the blue azure sky along with the blue signs. You've got the red roof and there's some other red in here. Very, very nicely done.
So it as a fourth dimension, it's something else to consider when you're looking at a picture.
Yeah. Would you ever consider using the fourth dimension to create a rivalry effect?
No,
It's not what you're after.
This special is no, I go against rivalry.
So this has got to be really hard for you. We're really pushing you here, Oleg.
Absolutely.
That said, I'm very curious about this submission. This is the Golden Spike Ceremony, Then and Now. And
Yeah,
I have some questions about this, but tell us what we're looking at here.
What you're looking at is there's a national park where the Golden Spike was done, and they got hold of the original blueprints for the trains, and in the national park they do a repeat every several times a day, the two trains coming together. So I took a picture of that, and then we had that. We did our own pictures of the actual that were taken. So I tried to superimpose all the people that you see there were in black and white, and all of the modern engines were in color. So I just decided to register them together. And that was pretty difficult because I was not in the same location. The trains did not were separated at different distances. So in order to make it viewable, I had to spend a lot of time registering different parts and people and stuff like that. At the upper right, there's a key to it. It says 18 something for black and white and 20 something for the color.
Looks like 1869 for black and white and 2020 for the color.
Yeah.
And so if I understand this, the rivalry isn't between the left and right eye, but the rivalry is within each individual picture. The actual picture, because you have a rivalry of this to me is what I had heard was the fourth dimension, which is time. So this is dealing with some other dimension because you have two different time periods and two trains that exist at two different times. So you're dealing with yet another dimension. You can give it a number, whatever you want.
This is a five-dimensional photo.
I wish I could find out from some expert which is the real fourth dimension.
Well, there are more than
I guess
four
I could jump in here. There is no real fourth dimension. I mean, if there were, it'd be just another dimension of space that's orthogonal to the other three. But you can have dimensions of just about anything, not just color, but or time, but it could be size or price or any other.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much. We've had this discussion before, so
Okay.
I'll just say that there's time in here. I don't know whether it's a dimension or not. But
Well, in Oleg's case, it is kind of literally time, so that is kind of neat. It's just, but in other settings, it's usually kind of raises my hackles.
So he's definitely got a time rivalry going on here.
Yeah,
pretty interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
So Oleg, you went to Promontory Point, Utah. And I'm guessing you you had the original stereo photo and you composed your shot based on where the camera originally was? Is that how
I tried to find it, but it was I did not get the right place. That's as close as I could get. So in post-production, I tried to register them so that they're in the same location. The two engines, the two trains were much closer together in the original picture, so I had to shift all those into the proper location.
I see.
Well, this is a massive undertaking then.
It took a whole day.
Well, plus you had to go there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was easy.
That was the easy part. So, this actually brings up something I've been wanting to talk about. Many of us participated, this has been a couple years ago now, in our Andrew J. Russell restoration, slide restoration, and slideshow. These were photos taken of the building of the Transcontinental Railway. And we really did excellent work. We presented it several times, a couple times in person, and then we did one online presentation at the beginning of the pandemic lockdown. And we've really just been kind of sitting on it since then. And I've been thinking about dusting it off and using it in a fundraiser, doing a Zoom presentation as we did before. We already have the slides made. And I recall when we did this in person, we had a huge turnout. I mean, we actually filled up the EOC room, which is where we used to meet in the basement of the Albany Community Center. And that only happened that one time, I think. I remember we presented it for the Berkeley Camera Club and knocked their socks off. And as I recall, the online presentation we did was very well attended too. If anyone is interested in participating in that, if anyone has any ideas of how we might expand that slideshow, let me know, because I'll probably be revisiting it sometime this summer.
I mean, if you want to raise funds, one thing we could do is take a bunch of the images that could be converted that would need, a lot of work, and then you could sort of sell sponsorships of images to be converted. In other words, getting people to donate money to cause us to restore particular images that people really like.
Oh, what a really interesting idea. Yeah. That way we would not only raise funds, but we would be restoring the stereo photos that we know people are actually interested in.
Yep.
Not just the ones that I'm interested in. I really like that idea. And I think that is a pitch that we could make to other stereo camera clubs and 3D enthusiasts. Oh, right. Yeah, I like that idea. Let me take some notes on this.
The only thought I had was, printing up an anaglyph book.
As I recall, the one we did online had, gosh, I've got to dig up those slides, but I think we showed both anaglyph and I forget if they were side by side or if they were universal, left, right, left. Anyway, I don't want to get into the weeds on this, but
I just mentioned it because they're all black and white pictures, so they would work in anaglyph and then could be printed. But yeah, I think Melinda has a great suggestion.
they do work well as anaglyphs. Thank you, Oleg. This one really got me thinking about some great work that we've done that I think needs to be rediscovered.
I just noticed, even though, everything is kind of like the flaws are part of the design, something that maybe wasn't your intention on the right-hand picture, you can see that one of the two cuts off before it gets to the edge. On the right-hand side, the far left of the right-hand picture, it just gets chopped off. Just a little edge of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of flaws in the picture. It was very difficult to get it to register.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed
That one,
that, Steve.
though, you could just crop it if that. Everything else, the flaws look like just part of the fact that you're doing two different time periods, whereas that's clearly just because it's chopped off very consistently. But it also, like I said, it looks like part of the design. But
Yeah.
it wouldn't be hard to crop that.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed that. It's just, yeah, a bit of a border error, easily fixed. Really not even noticeable because it is a mix of a black and white and a color photo.
I just thought of something. You could make this into a video where the way I have it, in order to make them more together, the black and white ones are full. The color ones I used, what do you call it? Transparency or
Opacity?
was that again?
Opacity?
Yeah, opacity. So I used a lot of opacity on the colored stuff. Otherwise, the colors picture would have taken over. You wouldn't see the people there. But you can easily make a video where one gradually changes from black and white to color.
Yeah. That would be a fun project.
Yeah, and it would be simple. I've got all of the things there. All I have to do is change the opacity to make one stronger than the other.
Well, like, do you use Magix? Do you use that video software?
I did, and something went wrong with it. It got corrupted somehow. It doesn't work anymore.
I set up a new Windows computer, a Windows 10 computer, and I dug up my old copy of Magix Movie Edit Pro 2013, and I was amazed that it installed and it works. If you have your installation file, you might want to give it another try. It'd be it would be a tool that you could create that video, that effect that you were just describing.
Yeah, I wish I could. I guess I should get to see if I can get a used Magix program.
Yeah, and Magix is still in business.
Well, they're too fancy now. There are too many things that they
That's too
You
bad.
provide
Yeah.
that I don't want.
You could do this without Magix. You could do it in really any video editing program because you can just do side by side. I mean, that's how I've done my films. Just render two side by side images. You can use DaVinci Resolve, which is completely free. There's actually a lot of free video editing programs. So you wouldn't need I mean, I got Magix so I could take the stuff that I shoot with my W3 and because otherwise there's no way to import that into my main video editing program. But yeah, you could do exactly what you're talking about in any number of free video editing programs.
I like Shotcut.
I've heard of that one.
It's all open source. It's gotten pretty good.
How do you spell it?
SHOTCUT.
Okay, Shotcut. Okay.
That's a
I mean,
3D video
DaVinci
editing
Resolve is
program.
really, really full featured, so it might be daunting, but it does a lot of the stuff that After Effects does. It does motion tracking.
All right. Well, thank you, Oleg. We're not done yet, but this does conclude the Retinal Rivalry exhibition for tonight. We have, well, actually two other shows. We have some fantastic conversions of San Francisco Post-Quake 1906 by Peter. And we have a Fix-It by Steve, a before and after of his CC Saw that we saw last week. Here's what I want to do. Let's go to our straw poll and let's make our selections for the retinal rivalry photos that we've enjoyed. We'll spend a couple minutes on that. We'll look at the results, and then we'll jump back into the photos and take a look at start with Peter's conversions. How does that sound?
Sure.
I'm putting the poll link in the chat. For those who have access to it, I know some of us are looking at this on YouTube, streaming over a TV. If you do have if you're looking at this on a computer, or if you have a tablet or a phone, you can get this link in our chat. And I would ask everyone to select their top 3 favorites. This isn't a competition. We just want to know kind of what our general opinions are. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through this slideshow again. I'm just going to spend 2 or 3 seconds on each photo so we can refamiliarize ourselves, and then we'll spend a minute or 2 actually making our selections. Unfortunately, I need to go backwards before I can go forwards. So if you get dizzy easily, you might want to look away from the screen. And again, for our YouTube viewers, you're going to be 15 or 20 seconds, give or take, behind the Zoom. And I went too far. Okay. Let's just wait a few seconds for everything to catch up here. And I went back too far, so let me go forward 1. I think everyone is probably caught up now, so let me run through this again quickly, and I'll say the titles also. Starting with Candy or Coal. I Have You Now, Puny Human. Fiery Flower. Wild Spirit. Mugshot. Ray in the Zone. X Marks the Spot. Fountain. Angel. We're going to skip this one, property with poorly kept shingles, so ignore that one in the list. Next.
That one was the wrong one. The picture was the wrong one with that title.
Okay. Let's take a look at it next month.
Okay.
Here we have downtown high-rises reflecting sun. Convenience store behind steel fence. And the last one for our group tonight is Golden Spike Ceremony, Then and Now. And the YouTube stream is just catching up. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. And let's spend the next 60 to 120 seconds making our selections on the straw poll. And again, ignore number 12. Select from the rest. Did everyone get a chance to see the slideshow? Does anyone need to go back? Does anyone want to see anything again? Sounds like we're okay. All right. And while we are waiting for our results to come in, I will just mention that our next meeting is Tuesday, April 2nd. And our special subject for that meeting, well, our special meeting, which will be the second meeting of April, is mirroring. This is creative use of Stereo Photo Maker's mirror effect feature. We've had this special before. It's a lot of fun. You don't have to use Stereo Photo Maker. I know some of us have achieved the same effect with Photoshop or other software. That's fine. We're not actually interested in which tool you made it with. We just want to see your creative interpretation. Does anyone need any more time making their selections? All right, let me pull this up and I'll share my screen. Again, this isn't about winners or losers, but I do encourage the highest scoring photographers to consider entering their photos in an international competition. And of course, this is a very small sample, so the results aren't very scientific. But hey, I think we all know what we like. Oleg, well done. Downtown High Rises Reflecting Sun is our clear leader with 4 votes. We've got a tie between Jack's Fiery Flower and Bob's Mugshot for the second position, followed by Melinda's I Have You Now, Puny Human. And then we have a few with 1 more vote. So well done. Thank you. The results will be up for a day or so if you want to take a look at those. Okay. We are going to move forward to our next show here, and that is going to be by Peter. Peter, are you still with us? Oh,
I'm still here.
You're good, and you're still awake. Good.
Yeah, I'm still awake. It's
You're in a
midnight. I turn into a pumpkin, but that's 20 more minutes.
Peter, are you in Canada?
Yeah, Toronto.
And does Toronto have daylight savings?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
I wish we didn't.
You must be really dragging right now.
Yeah, it's 20 to midnight right now.
Okay.
But you guys don't have it, eh? Because I noticed the tennis in Indian Wells is 2 hours ahead. And when it's the West Coast is normally 3 hours ahead.
Well,
So
California
I'm not sure.
has it.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah,
not all states do.
Saskatchewan doesn't have it either. But I wish we didn't have it. I can't figure out all the new clocks, how to turn them back. My daughter has to come in and do the clocks because on some of the digital ones, I don't know the codes, how to change the time.
Well, don't turn them back. Remember, it's spring forward, so
Yeah,
fall back. So
fall back.
Turn them forward.
I think of falling back.
Yeah, it's easy to remember.
Right.
Yeah, so we just push them forward. I'm with you. I don't know why we still use it. It seems like nobody likes it.
Well,
It
somebody
seems
said,
really stupid to save daylight during the part of the year when you've got lots of it anyway.
yeah.
Well, California was supposed to get rid of daylight savings, and for some reason we hung on to it.
Nationally, we almost did it recently.
Yeah. I mean, the citizens voted to stop it, and then the legislature said, nah, we're going to keep it for reasons they didn't fully explain.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's like 1,000 people die every time they do that
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, there's traffic accidents and all kinds of crazy stuff.
at my age, I really feel it on Monday.
You
I'm
just could figure
retired,
out how
so
to, if you could just figure out how to save this daylight in the summer and use it in the winter. Now I'd go along with that.
Store it up.
yeah,
Yeah.
like electricity, spend it at
Sure.
night and save it up in the day.
Well, Jack, I think
I
you
heard of-
can
I
invent
heard of
that
one
and you'll win
farmer
the
that
Nobel
tried to,
Prize.
Good idea, Jack. I like your idea there. And maybe just half an hour when you kind of want to sleep in a little, just squeeze out half of the time for one day and have the next day take the other half.
Sure, that'd be enough.
Right.
I heard
So
of a farm.
these images were all got from Shorpy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Shorpy. It's sort of a vintage image place.
Can you spell that? It's Shorpy. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. Shorpy. And they have nice high-res vintage images on there for free. Like a couple of thousand pixels wide and so on. So that's a real bonus. And all types of subjects. There's a whole section on Kodachromes of the 50s and 40s. And anyway, go on there and you'll have fun. So I looked on there and found a San Francisco image, 1906. I typed in SF 1906, San Francisco 1906. And they're not 3D, but I turned this one into 3D.
And they are very high resolution, as you said, very sharp.
So all the little people are pretty sharp in the background, which is unusual for most of the stuff I ever deal with.
That's a great conversion.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm sort of the drive-in window of conversions, meaning you put your order in at the speaker, and by the time you get around to the window, I should have it ready, meaning I don't spend more than an hour or so doing them. So perfection isn't on my radar screen, but just a pleasing effect is what I'm looking for, and nice subject matter. So I thought you guys would like the San Francisco angle because where you guys live.
Wow, that's amazing that you could do this in an hour.
Well, I cheat. I use Leah now. I've just gone over to Leah from Midas 3. I find Leah's getting really good. And then I have to do some fix-ups, which take me just less than an hour usually. And taking out telegraph wires is a monster. In this one, I even just let them stay there, but they're pretty easy to clone them out.
I've put the LeaPix converter website link in the chat for those of us who want to achieve effects like Peter has done here. Something that I find really intriguing about this conversion, I think it's a really nicely done conversion. As you know, Peter and I were talking earlier, there are lots of stereo photos of San Francisco post-quake, but I've never seen one hyper like this. These stereo photos were taken with cameras with fixed position lenses, and I'm not aware of anyone who is even making hypers in 1906. Now I'm sure I'm probably wrong. Somebody must have been. I've just never seen them. But for me, someone who's studied San Francisco 1906 stereo cards, this is a really thrilling image. I mean, the depth is just extraordinary, and it's just such an interesting way to see this.
Well, I stretch them out deliberately because to make lenticulars, I got to have more punch. If it was just a 2-image one, I could be less pushy with it. Also, for lenticulars, you got to have almost half the picture coming through the window, thus violating the window tremendously. So for just this purposes of this display, I shoved the window back so they're all behind the window. But normally for a lenticular, it'd have half that road coming through, which ironically doesn't look that bad in a lenticular for some reason.
That's an interesting point. Something that I never noticed. I have a lenticular postcard collection, and I didn't notice how through the window they actually are until I photographed them in 3D, just tilting the postcard a bit between exposures and getting my pair that way. And you don't really notice it looking at the lenticular print, but yeah, a lot of the stuff is right in front of the window.
Because if you have it properly to the window, the background would blur out to completely blurry in a lenticular because it'd be so much motion. So you're splitting the motion from the foreground to the background is what you're trying to do.
Very interesting. Let's
The
take a
thing
look
that
at
interests me is if you look at it now, if you look at the closest man, the closest person there, you see in one image why the white part of the building is on the right and the next building it's on the left, and that gives it a big part of the 3D effect of the thing. Now, is that something that's done by the Leopix, or is that something you moved him over by hand, or?
Yeah, on the people there, the people didn't come out too great with Leah. All their heads are never matching their bodies. So I just go in there and select every person and grayscale them. So you go, if you want it further to the front, you make them a little darker, and because I have dark at front, white in the back. So you just put all the people where you want them, and it's just where I decide to want them. I could put them all together, but I just feel with the size of them and everything. But the Leopix does great on the buildings and crowds. If you have a whole crowd of heads of people and crowd scene, it's really fantastic the way it will get them all in the right perspective, mostly. And I think it's to do with the maybe the algorithm looks at the distance of eyes apart and heads, which gives a very good reckoning of how far people are away from the camera. So a human is pretty easy to figure depth-wise.
Yeah, these figures look very natural. They look like they belong in that space. I didn't realize you had manipulated them.
Well, I try to make it semi-realistic. Yeah, you sometimes when you're putting one in, you say, "Holy Christ, he's way too far forward or back or something." And it's quite, if you select and save the selection, it's very easy to go in and just darken up the image or lighten up the selection quickly once you've selected it. So it doesn't take long to fix it. In other words, once you've done the choosing of the people.
Yeah, and I think those people make this shot.
There's a great flip shot on that church above on the top of the hill there, California Street, I think this is, taken post-earthquake and pre-earthquake from the same camera position. And it will flip beautifully. And I haven't found the flips. I've seen them separately, but not together, so you could do a lovely lenticular flip card of before and after of the earthquake.
Let's take a look at another one. Here's another shot of California Street, San Francisco, 1906. This will be popping up in a few moments.
As you see, it's the same street. Same church at the top of the road.
Yeah, it looks like we've walked up the street a few blocks.
Yeah. Now, this one was a bit strange because I had this blurry dirt on the right-hand side on the pile. And I figured the blur was because somebody just thrown a shovel of dirt. So I sort of put a feather on it and selected it and just shoved it in the depth I figured the dirt may be sitting as someone throws it. And it semi-works okay.
That was one of the first things I noticed in this one. This one actually has some action, some movement. How did Leopix handle that flying dirt before you manipulated it? Did it know what to do with it?
It put it right at the same depth as the rubble underneath it, so it just looked like blurry rubble. Unless you depthed it up to look floating in air a bit.
Yeah, I think
and the shovels all bent. Every one of those straight shovels bent. You had to straighten those out. And I got a little lazy on this one because the guy on the very left walking with the woman, his hat's all bent, as you can see a little bit. And I just got sick of working on it. And one of the workmen, his rim of his hat, on the right image, you can see it going off to the right, and on the left image, you can see it going off to the left, a little vertical line of a hat brim. That can all be fixed if you go in there and mask it out properly. I just hit my 1 hour takeout window time and pulled the plug on fixing it.
These come out really well. They look good. The next step, when are you going to do colorize them?
I don't do colorizing. I admire it. Do you colorize, Jack? I invite you to colorize this.
Might do one of those, yeah, because it really has a potential. It's really easy to do, and you just do it in layers. You pick a color you want to use and put it in the lower layer and erase into it, and to whatever extent you want.
Yeah,
it's just fun.
I'm a one-trick pony. I just stick to the 3D. And a lot of people have colorized this stuff if you find it somewhere on the internet.
Now, Peter, I know you've shown us colorized, converted photos, but I think you started with a photo that was already colorized in that case. Is that right?
Exactly. Yes, I steal, well, steal is a bad word, but I borrow it indefinitely when it's colorized.
Well, good artists borrow and great artists steal, so you can steal it.
Indeed. So, yeah, no, I like colorized stuff if you can find it.
If you want, I might take one of these and play with it and send it back to you.
Well, Jack, go on Shorpy, SHORPY, and find that original image, which will be flat and in nice shape for you to work on.
Well, I'd rather start with a 3D image.
Well, because I've got the depth map for this, so if you colorize the flat one, I can just whip the depth map on it. And it'll turn into color in 3D.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
You don't want to colorize both halves of this, just do the one original. I don't know if you're on your computer now, but Shorpy, you can type it in and find the site.
I just put the Shorpy link in the chat.
Yeah,
it looks like a great site. Lots of content.
And I'm a vintage fan, and it's loaded with vintage stuff, old-fashioned stuff.
I just wanted to add to the discussion that when I'm colorizing, the first stop is a free program, free website called Image Colorizer.
Image Colorizer. Let me write that down, Steve. So you just stick in your image and they do a colorizing on it?
That's right. It's usually kind of low res, but then I'll use Topaz to up-res it. which I do have topaz.
Yeah, I've used Topaz too, and I can only find 400 wide images, unlike Shorpy with a couple of thousand pixel wide images.
Yeah, you want that high resolution to work with.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know what the limit on image colorizer is, but it's less than 1080.
Yeah, that's all right. I whenever I've tried an AI colorizer, for me, it just doesn't look right. The people are either faded or strange. The coats change color when it goes through a shadow and
Yeah,
stuff.
well that's true with this one too. And then I'll usually have to tweak it, but it does a really good job with skin tones, which I'm not
Oh,
very good at.
oh, okay, that's good.
I put that link in the chat as well, image colorizer.
Oh, thanks,
Let's
Matt.
Peter,
You,
let's look at another one of yours. This is Golden Gate 1956. This is 50 years later. And this one, here we've got a color. Is this from that Kodachrome collection that you were mentioning?
yes, this is natural color, which I think is a Kodachrome. But it's a pain in the butt to do this in 3D because of all the trailing depths and those struts and things. So I kind of faked it out. I just didn't do the ocean behind the struts. I just kind of vaguely grayscaled them all off into the distance. So it took me a little longer to do this one than the other ones. As you see, there's a few the road and the left-hand cables don't quite meet properly, while the right-hand ones tend to meet a little better.
In this one, his outfit almost makes him look like a robot or something. It's maybe it was really that bulky, but I think there's something to do with the depth. I don't know if anybody else sees it.
Oh, yeah, his
What?
shoulder looks sort of crushed.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, the guy's shoulder, it was humped out like a giant monster, and I backed it off a little, but not quite enough. It does still look bulky. Yeah, there's a bunch of errors in this, but again, I just go for the effect.
these all look
And the
great.
subject matter is a fantastic subject matter, and I wouldn't want that guy's job to paint the whole bridge.
Yeah, great subject. It would be hard to capture this with a stereo camera because we have in the foreground we have the person, and then we have that bucket. And to capture that in stereo, you would need a stereo base that would render the bridge mostly flat behind it because it would be a fairly narrow base.
Yeah.
But doing this conversion, you can have both. You've got depth throughout, and the depth of the foreground subjects isn't too hyper. It's very easy for me to view, at least. So
I
I'm not
guess
sure if
one
that's
of
something you
those
could even do.
asymmetrical rigs that I've been reading about would be good for something like this, where you've got two cameras quite close and one a little further off, so you can pick and choose which ones you want for what parts of the picture you want.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah.
I've only been reading about that asymmetrical stuff, but I have a camera rig with 6 cameras or 8 cameras, and I can pick and choose which ones I use for various distances. 1 and 6 make it far apart, 1 and 2 is close together, that type of thing. So if I had that around when this bridge was done, I might pick 1 and 2 for the foreground and 1 and 6 in the background or something.
Yeah, interesting.
And because it's all taken simultaneously, you can just layer them all and erase the layers that are too hyper in front of your eyes.
Yeah, what an interesting creative solution.
somebody told me a great idea. It was at Yellowstone Park, of all places, and they have a viewing platform for the falls. And of course, it's jammed with people. And somebody told me a trick to empty a platform of people. What you do is you put your camera on a tripod and just click every few seconds, because the people move and leave little spaces where the fence is, the proper platform. And you stand there long enough and layer it all together in a big long layer and just eliminate all the people, and you'll end up with an empty platform.
I've
As
heard
long
of
as the
that
light
technique.
doesn't change on you. Some guy told me that right on the spot. I said, thanks a lot.
I've also heard of a technique using a neutral density filter or a dark filter, so that your exposures are several seconds long or longer. The idea being that people who are walking through your composition won't be recorded because the exposure is so long. Although I think the multiple shots is probably a bit more practical, certainly easier to set up.
You
Well,
realize
the
you
longest
got,
photo ever taken, or that one with a guy shining his boots, in 1839,
Right, the
a
first.
street, is the only guy, because he's standing there still while the rest of the traffic's moving, and it disappears, all the rest of the traffic.
That's a perfect. That's a perfect example. Yeah. Before we move on to your next one, Peter, and I appreciate everyone staying a little bit late. We only have a few more to get through. In the past, I've really been in a rush to wrap things up by 9. I'm not really fighting that so much anymore, and I am drinking coffee before the meeting, so I'm alert. I know that some of us need to get to work tomorrow, and some of us are on the East Coast, so I'm not going to keep you here too long, but I appreciate everyone sticking around, because we do have a few interesting photos that I want everyone to get a chance to see and talk about. And that said, Peter, let's take a look at number 4. This is another Market Street 1906. Oh, I'm sorry. This is another 1906 conversion. This one is on Market Street rather than on California Street.
Same idea.
There's a lot of people in this one. Did you have to do a lot of corrections for the hats and heads and all that?
Just the foreground heads. The man in the bowler hat and the woman beside him in the foreground had head problems where their head didn't match their bodies. But as you get further out in the crowd, it worked beautifully. Leah did a great job from about the 8th person on to really make them in nice depth and natural, and all that rubble and buildings was all pretty well left alone. It was really something. I just did some telephone wire removal because there was annoying telephone wires across the sky, and that's pretty fast to do. So yes, the closer it is to the camera, of course, the more any problems will show up to do more work in the foregrounds.
And I think this is the perfect case for using a conversion app like Leia, because to do something like this, a crowd shot like this by hand, I would imagine that would be a real chore. This is the kind of thing that these converters, as you were saying, Peter, just do so well.
Well, the old days, I used to do layering for everything like 20 years ago, where you literally cut everyone out and it'd take you forever.
Right. I mean, you've got, you'd have more than 20 layers. Gosh, probably a lot more than 20 layers if you were to do this by hand. And that's just the people.
If you were layering, it's 40, 50 layers to get all that looking good. I don't have the eyesight or the patience anymore.
Well, now we've got the tools.
That's right. Where were the tools when I was
Right.
20 years old?
Well, Peter, you've put in your time. You've definitely got credibility as a conversion expert. So it's
I'm
okay to
only a
use the tools now.
researcher. I'm not an expert in anything. There's people much better at it. I just research and do it. As I say, I'm the fast food version of conversions.
Well, don't sell yourself short. I think we're all very impressed with
Oh,
this.
McDonald's makes a fortune. Not that I make any money at this, and I'm a vintage nerd, so I like, I don't have anything modern really that I do. Taylor Swift I should be doing and try to sell it on the internet. Nobody
Well,
wants to buy this stuff.
In my
If
experience,
1906 ever comes back, I'll make a fortune.
in my experience, 3D is a great way to lose your shirt if you're looking to make money.
Yeah,
Stick with what you're doing now.
I
Do it
still
for
have my
fun.
shirt.
It's a great way to lose your Anaglyph shirt, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you, Peter. These were excellent. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you submitting them, and I hope that you send us some more next month. I really have a lot of fun with these.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll keep sending them.
If you don't mind, I'll keep badgering and pestering you to send them to us.
Okay.
They're a lot of fun. Now we have
Okay.
We have two more photos for the evening, and these are by Steve. We discussed these photos last week, and he's done a fix-it. He's taken some of our feedback and applied it. Now, these photos are actually, let's see, can I go around? I can go around. Okay. So for our YouTube viewers, this will catch up in just a few seconds. This is CC saw before. This is what we looked at last week, I believe. Steve, do you want to remind us what the subject is and where you took this image?
Yeah, this is at a rest stop in Indonesia. We were on a bus trip somewhere. I can't even remember where, but and we just stopped, and I was wandering around taking pictures and saw this little seesaw, and it's odd because it looks like it's designed for 6 people, but we're not exactly sure where person number 5 and 6 sit. And then the suggestions were, it's a little blown out in a few spots, especially in the grass at the upper left.
I think we did like the through the window effect, the prominent through the window effect of this one.
Yeah, and I think it was a little soft. I put it through Topaz. Which it didn't do as good a job as most of the time I use it, but it did help.
Well, let's take a look at the after. So this is the before. And coming up next will be the after. First thing I noticed, Steve, it looks like you've put in a false frame to emphasize that through the window effect.
Yeah, that was one of the suggestions. So I put a little black border at the bottom. So it really comes out of the window. And of course, I colored, I darkened. I thought it would be I'll just make it darker. I just use a dark brush, a darkening brush. What do they call it? Burning. That was a mess. And then I should have just scrapped everything and started over from scratch. But then I ended up like tweaking it and adding a little texture to it, and then the textures didn't match from left to the right, and so anyway, it was a mess. This is not too bad. I think you can tell it's also a little sharper, and I've gone in and done some burn in on the on where it was too overexposed, the seats and also the white handle.
Very effective here, Steve, of improvements.
Thanks.
The,
Yeah, I went back.
the
I went back
upper, just a suggestion on the upper grass, which isn't quite at the right depths on the left. If you copy and paste, fix up one image for the grass, copy and paste it, then put it over the other side and arrow key it with your glasses on to make it go to the right depth.
I do all that. This is another case. This is just like the hour thing. It's like, oh God,
Good for you.
I
Yeah.
spent like 3 hours. I mean, that's what I did. That's what I do for almost everything. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I just got tired and I just said, you know what? It's way up in the corner. It's not too bad. It kind of looks like a little hill. Let it go. But, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Well done. Yep, I understand completely. Well done.
Now, Steve, I remember there was some discussion. I'm going to go back to the before version of that red area in the background of the upper right-hand area of the composition. And some of us suggested you clone it out, and some of us wanted you to keep it. Did you play with that? Did you come up with a decision?
Absolutely. Go to the next one. Go to the new one. You'll see it.
So the original is on the screen right now.
Yeah.
And we see that red area. And yeah, I think, it does anchor the shot to a degree, but let's look at the after again.
I cloned it. And I think that was originally your suggestion. You said just get rid of it. I thought it was distracting. I didn't need the red. I think the red at the base looks good. Didn't need it. What I did is I widened the picture so you can see the little blue tire there at the left. So that's another change. I mean, because I went back to the source. But yeah, I mean, that's a tough call. I can see what you're saying, and as I recall, though, you were the one that suggested that I just make it green.
That was my suggestion, yeah.
Yeah, and I went with that.
Not everyone
I
agreed
like
with
the
my
green
suggestion,
look.
but it was my suggestion.
I like the green look over the orange, whatever it was, pavement look. This is good. And the depth is good too on the right side too. Everything's good.
Thanks. You're right though. Yeah, the upper left is a flaw, and I may still revisit it. Yeah. Were you? I didn't get what you were saying, Matt. That maybe it was better the other way.
Well, thank you, Steve. I think this is an improvement. I like the original one, but this one is this is a cleaned up version, I would say. If you're not doing anything on the fourth Monday of this month, the Cascade Stereo Club is having a through the window slideshow, and I'm sure they'd love to see this one if you want to throw it in.
I'll consider that.
But
Definitely
that's your call. I won't steal it and claim that it's mine.
Matt, one quick
Yes.
thing I might pass on. Some of you probably entered the Southern Cross International PSA.
Yeah.
I haven't heard back yet any results yet. But I was having a lot of trouble finding the other half a dozen they do during the year. So I sent a note to Eugene Muskowski, and he says, gee, I don't know. So he got back to me. He says, I went through the whole PSA, thing online, and I couldn't find anything. And he got back to me. He says, Well, the reason is it's not out yet. They haven't put anything out on the list yet. So if you're looking for it, don't go crazy trying to find it for another maybe a month or so.
Good to know. Thanks, Jack.
Did I say something there?
Yeah,
This is
Lee.
Lee. There are a whole set of new PSA rules, really down on AI and a lot of things. The people that are running exhibitions this year have an awful lot to do to get them approved.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, there certainly has been a lot of discussion. I'm glad to know that the PSA is responding to this new reality that we have. And of course, my appreciation and my kudos to the clubs and organizations who are running these international exhibitions. They are a lot of work, but they are important. And as we know, we used to have the Oakland International. One of these days, I would love to get that off the ground again. But we'll let everyone else sort this out first before we get there. I'm going to call that as our meeting, unless anyone else has something they'd like to share. I actually do have something to share. I'm just going to, you of course won't be able to see these in 3D, but I have a small collection of stereo cards of the aftermath of the 1906 quake. And I'll just hold them up real quick. These aren't hard to find. They printed a lot of them. They're not particularly rare or valuable. You can find these on eBay. You can find these at flea markets. You can find these at the 3D Con.
Didn't Bob Bloomberg make a film about this?
It sounds familiar. I'm not sure if it was Bob, but
I know Bob made a film that used a lot of old photos of San Francisco. I was thinking it was the earthquake, but it may have been just a history of San Francisco.
well, let's ask him next month when we see him. He had to cut out early, but we'll press him on that. I certainly.
I had something to add real quick.
Yeah, take it away.
I did see Kung Fu Panda 4. It has some great 3D stuff. Not just spears shooting out at you, but they use a graphic technique of for just a second of highlighting a character in front of a flat graphic color, usually has some kind of little design on it. And that's very effective in 3D. And they do a lot of stuff that goes into like a fantasy, and it goes into a more stylized image. So pretty standard kind of fare in terms of its story, but pretty funny. I mean, Jack Black is funny, Aquafina funny, even Ronnie Chang, who I think is hilarious. He has a really small role, but he's funny. So if you want to say, it's really good in 3D though.
Well, I'll let you discuss that with Lee, who also saw Kung Fu Panda 4, but had a different experience.
You did see it.
You did see it, yes.
Well, go ahead and give your quick, 10-second review.
Okay, I saw it today. The projector was in bad shape, so the left image was very pale in colors. So that was one of the problems. But the movie was for kids, all kinds of animals. Everything is moving all the time. Everybody is a hero and everybody is a bad person. Everybody hates everybody at the beginning, and at the end, everybody's supposed to be loving everybody.
Very predictable.
Yes.
Well,
I did think the ending was pretty lackluster.
I'll show off again my Kung Fu Panda Blu-ray 3D, because who else is going to care about it? And I wanted to mention that we've got a new restored title coming out. It is Arch Obler's Domo Arigato in the Space Vision format. We did get the bubble in Space Vision. This was Obler's. I don't know if this was his first 3D. No, not his first. It would be his second or maybe his third after Wanted Devil. I don't know. Anyway, not a great movie. Interesting 3D. Dune 2 is out. We didn't get it in 3D theatrically, but you could get it. Get the first Dune movie in 3D on disc, and I think that's still available. And we were talking about this. This is The Man Who Wasn't There in 3D, a 3D movie from the summer of '83, recently restored and released by 3D Film Archive. Terrible movie. Pretty good 3D. That's all I have. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share before we call it a night?
Yes. Do you know where to get the Victor Romeo thing?
Good
The Charlie
question.
Victor Romeo DVD or whatever it's on.
This is the 3D movie that was we talked about at the New York Stereoscopic Association meeting 2 or maybe 3 weeks ago. I wish Tor was here because he knows exactly what it is and where to find it. He's working tonight, unfortunately.
Okay.
I'm pretty
No
sure
hurry.
once we find the title, I think you can get it on Amazon.
It's Charlie Victor Romeo, I think's the
Something
title.
like that. I know the first letter is a C. Does anyone know
Where
Charlie Victor Romeo Blu-ray? Here it is. Oh, well, Amazon is temporarily out of stock, but it is called Charlie Victor Romeo. I'm going to put that in the chat. This is the title.
Okay.
And somebody's got to be selling it in 3D.
Or even 2D is good enough.
Yeah. I think you're going to have an easier time finding it in 2D than in 3D. In any case, let's keep our eyes open. Somebody must be selling it. Okay, here we go. I see it is for sale on grindhousevideo.com. I've just put that link in the chat. So, Peter, if you want to grab that link,
thank you.
they've got 3 available. And it is the 3D version. So,
Oh, good. Grindhouse sounds like some sex type of video.
not something I would usually order from, but
No.
it is. So let's see. By the end of this meeting, all 3 copies might be gone.
Damn. Yeah, thank you. I'll contact them.
Yeah, grab it before it's gone.
Yes.
All right. Well, with that, let's call it a night. And I look forward to seeing everyone again on Tuesday, April, was that the 2nd? Let me confirm that. Let me look at my notes here. I don't want to mislead you. Yes, Tuesday, April 2nd. And our special subject again is mirroring. That's using Stereo Photo Maker's mirror effect feature, or you can do the same thing in Photoshop or your preferred photo editing program. And with that, I'll bid everyone a good night, and I'll see you next month. Thanks, everybody. Had a great meeting tonight.
Good night.
And for once, it didn't blow up, so we're doing great. See you next month, guys.
Right on.